Hi, Richard Ivey from Breakout Property Solutions. I'm very excited today to be with Mike Grace from PRG Property Group. So, hello, Mike.
Oh, hi, Richard. How are you?
Good, mate. Good. So, we're just going to chat today about you and what you've got to offer. So, first of all, how long have you been in the real estate industry for?
I've been in the real estate industry and financial planning sort of industry for about 40 years.
Okay, so a lot of background experience, yes. Yep. And obviously dealt with a lot of clients through that time.
Yes. We've had over about 4,000 properties.
Wow.
We've had for investors over the period, so It's been very good.
Yeah. So, Mike, what do you specialise in?
We specialise in mainly providing cash flow analysis for people, and normally these are pretty, currently, they're positively geared properties.
Yep.
So that makes people, create a bit of wealth.
Yeah, great. So obviously with the cash flow, but the other side of it is the equity growth as well in property. So at the moment we're in a bit of a boom arena. Yeah,
we sure are. Yeah. Yes. So, look, just to give you an idea, the average property price in say 2000 was 158,000.
Wow.
Today, it's over 720,000.
Yeah.
So it's been a massive growth over that period.
Yeah. So, we often talk about strategies. So we fall in the trap, we get a bit scared about something with a property. It might go in a bit of a bust period and we sort of offload the property because we want to capture the equity we've got. And I look back on my experience with investment property. So with what you just said, it's good to stay in property long term and just keep capturing that equity growth.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And like you said, if you've got that cash flow positive behind you in the property, it's looking after itself.
Look, Richard, when we first started back in the 90s, people were buying properties at $50 a week negative.
Yeah.
Yeah. And today, most properties are positively geared.
Yeah.
And that really helps people, sort of, particularly with the tax man and the tenant paying off their mortgage for them.
Yep.
Keeps them sort of afloat.
Yeah. And one thing I've sort of known over the years, rents don't ever really go backwards. They might plateau out for a little while. We've had a boom with the rents going up.
Look, the rental vacancy rate is under 0.1% in Perth.
Yeah.
And this augurs very well. We've had properties jump from, 300 to 450, in a year. Massive jumps in rentals. We've had an enormous number of viewings.
Yeah.
We opened a property the other day. We had over 50 people just waiting to view the property for rent.
Yeah.
So the rental market is very, very strong in Perth at the moment.
Very hot. So looking into the future, do you think that's going to slow down, or do you think that's going to sort of, the supply and demand is going to be there for quite a while?
Look, I think the demand's going to be there because we're not building as many properties to keep up with the population growth.
Yeah.
In fact, we've just had announced on the TV yesterday the new AUKUS submarines that are coming to Rockingham, where we are at the moment. Funnily enough, they're going to have 10,000 workers. So where are they going to house them?
Yeah.
There is not enough houses even in the Rockingham area to do that. So we just need to somehow get more property built and investors can take advantage of that.
Yeah. So what services are the services do you offer? I know that you're involved with like land development, builders and stuff like that. Maybe just explain a bit over that.
Because we're independent, we can act for anyone. And we act for a lot of different builders. So we're not tied to a building company. We have people like the Summit Group, MBR Constructions, Endeavour Homes, various builders that we deal with, Ventura Homes. And it's important that we keep that independence because that way we can get the best deal for the clients.
Great. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So what about... okay, you got house and land packages. You do apartments as well.
Yes, yes.
And there are houses. You do get houses come up on the market sometimes?
Yes. Like sometimes there's some resales from the investors that want to resell. So we do get that occasionally. But a lot of people hold on to their properties for a long time because, as we saw, like that huge growth from 2000. If you sold in 2000, you'd be kicking yourself today because the price, and they're even tipping the price to go up to about $850, the average house price in Perth next year or the year after.
Yeah. Well, I know, like just currently today, the average price over in Sydney, Melbourne's like $1.5 million and that. And
Correct.
Brisbane's, I think, just a bit over $1 million. And I think South Australia is just knocking on $1 million.
Yes.
So it's a ripple effect across the country. Generally what happens is so Perth is going to, from my liking and my view, is that Perth will catch up to those prices. We're sort of probably I don't know, the average 650 or something now in Perth, or
720.
Okay.
The average house price at the moment. So that's a terrific jump for the last few years. So and probably goes like that. Maybe flat for a little while, but then it all of a sudden it has that huge growth spurt. I think that's why investors need to get something like a positively geared property that doesn't really cost them anything and they sit on it.
So maybe the tax side of things, maybe explain to people, for example, house and land package, to buying a house and if you buy a house, what are the tax things you have there involved?
Look, a couple of things. There's an advantage in a house and land package. Firstly, the stamp duty is only paid on the land. So there's considerable saving, whereas apartments, you pay the stamp duty on the full purchase price. So that can be a saving of up to $20,000 of stamp duty. The other thing that happens is that with apartments, we deal mainly on apartments that are built or nearing completion. So we don't get involved in apartments from day one. It's normally, they're either built, and that's the security for an investor. He knows what he's getting, he can touch and feel it, and that's the basic security for everyone.
And I think if you got in at the very beginning, you got to wait quite a while for the apartment to be built, and where builders are nowadays, can be, like you say, a bit of insecurity in there.
Well, it can take 3 or 4 years for an apartment block to, whilst it's good to get in on the ground floor, you maybe run the risk of it being delayed and not being able to move into it or have a tenant into it for years. Really.
So, just the house and land packages. So you have access to quite a few different areas, don't you?
Yes, we cover virtually the whole metropolitan area, virtually from Yanchep in the north, down to Mandurah, even down to Bunbury, that sort of thing. In fact, Bunbury's probably one of the regional towns that's going to move in the next few years. So, again, it's a good time to get into something that is down a little bit, but then is on the move.
Bunbury's my area.
Oh, right. Okay.
So you also do NRAS and some different aspects of property? So maybe explain that.
Years ago, we embarked on selling the NRAS properties to investors. Because it became too lucrative for the investor, the government are now ending that program in June 2026. So still a couple of years to go. A tax-free payment from the government of $12,500 is payable at the moment. So you can see how lucrative it was for an investor.
So that would be the other side of tax is when you get a new property, the tax depreciation schedule, so you can claim that. So that's on top of that?
On top of that, because it's a tax-free payment from the government, the NRAS payment. With your deductions, obviously you can claim all the property deductions, including your mortgage interest, off your tax return. So that's a totally separate tax deductible items.
So what is NRAS, Mike? Just so people know what NRAS is.
Well, NRAS was brought out by the government. It's called the National Rental Affordability Scheme. So it was introduced to alleviate the waiting list of people wanting properties.
Yeah.
So it started in 2008,
Yeah.
and there was something like 50,000 people on the waiting list at that time.
Yeah.
That's dwindled down a little bit, but the idea was that the government would give you an investor buying the property a huge tax-free payment, like the $12,500, this per annum.
Yeah.
And the tenant would get a 20% reduction in his rent.
Yep.
So that was the incentive there.
Yep.
And obviously the government got more houses built.
Yeah.
So it was a win-win-win situation,
Yep.
which is very rare these days.
Yeah.
And it's just a pity that it's ending in 2026. Maybe it'll be reintroduced, maybe not as lucrative. But
I think, the whole concept was, instead of the government having to fork out billions of dollars to actually build a house themselves, probably 500,000-600,000 for a government built house, with all the things they need to put into the houses. So their incentive was, instead of them forking out all that large money, they put it back to the investors to build on their behalf, but they gave them this incentive to back them up to build houses on behalf of the government, really, wasn't it?
Yes. Look, it helped the government, having more housing built.
Yeah.
It also helped the builders as well. So these were sold, all over Australia. So it kick-started the building industry again at that time. So it was a wonderful program, and it's just, we can't understand why it's not going forward.
Yeah. So another thing I know that you've done in the past, and that, I know that you probably still do, is dual income houses.
Yes.
So
these have become very popular of late, where it means that you've got two accommodations on the one block of land.
Yeah.
So, it might be a 3x2 on one side and a 1x1 or a 2x1 on the other side, and you can rent both out.
Yeah.
So that gives you, two incomes on the one property. And very, very highly positively geared.
Yeah. Because I know with local councils, and I've spoken in other segments, that they're changing the laws, to allow for smaller dwellings at the back of the, on properties and stuff like this. So this is creating the same thing, which is like having sort of two properties being built, but like you're dealing with they're new build properties.
Yes.
So you're getting it straight away.
Yes.
Two properties, two rental income streams coming in, which is exciting.
And extra tax deductions on the fittings and fitting.
Yeah.
Because, you've got two stoves and two, hot plates. All those extra deductions are doubled up because of the extra accommodation.
Yeah. All this is good news for investors, isn't it, Mike? And just so that all the services that you've got, and you have a great listing of different properties. I've known Mike for probably 15 of those years. And so I know Mike has all these different properties that, an investor can tap into and purchase. So it's great chatting to you, Mike.
It's good.
Just hear all what you've got available and the services you provide, and the information you've given us today has been very, very well received. Thank you, Mike. And
thank you, Richard.
I really appreciate your time.
Yep.
And I know you're a very busy man. You're off. You got appointments today. You're seeing who are you seeing today?
I'm seeing an NDIS provider.
Okay.
So that's a new thing that's sort of happening in the marketplace.
Yep.
Houses are built specifically for the NDIS and then rented out to disabled occupants.
Yep.
So we're having a meeting there to discuss and see what we can do there.
Yeah. So what I know about the NDIS is generally they've got a very high rental income coming out of them. Yeah. So they're a very lucrative investment. And I actually spent 4 years working with disabled people, and one thing I definitely know about them, they do not like change. And so once they're in a property, whatever, even in a workforce, they'll stay there for years.
Yes.
And they're probably the best tenant you can get.
Yes.
They just they don't think about wrecking the place. Generally, they're not smokers, drinkers, and all that stuff. And they make great tenants.
Yes.
And obviously the government's paying.
Yes. No, very good.
Yeah.
So,
great information, Mike. And thank you for your time this morning.
thank you, Richard.
Appreciate it very much.
Lovely.